Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to an episode of Tatami Talk. My name is Juan. Just my partner Anthony. This is a judo podcast for judo players by two judo players. So Anthony, how you doing?
As you know, I've been really busy. So just like as usual, we still have to record the Kemi videos, short videos we're talking about. So we should probably get to that before the holidays come up, right? So
with our schedule, when it gets changed on the 12th, I don't know when we're gonna have time to shoot these videos.
We're gonna have to show up early on Saturday morning.
We're either super early, butt crack of dawn, shoot those videos, or we're gonna stay super late till everyone's gone.
Yeah, I think one of the videos we talked about doing that I actually got asked about online was the Kemi videos, and I need to record that because I'm kind of getting sick and tired of explaining to every single beginner like, this is what you do: tuck your chin, slap the mat, and then go into detail, because it takes like a good 40 minutes for me to explain it. Especially since with the new schedule, one of the classes I'm running is going to reduce from an hour and a half to an hour. So it actually works out for me because I was planning on skipping the warm-ups anyway and replace it with like uchikomis and turnovers as a warm-up. So that's going to work out. But yeah, I think last time I talked about the ukemi videos, how we are going to make it. Like right after I start recording, like within like an hour, our old previous sensei that used to be an instructor here at Hollywood, Sensei Ricard, who is a judo instructor in Sweden for a police dojo, I believe. He released a ukemi video like right after we talked about it. And it's a very good ukemi video that I recommend you guys check out on how to teach ukemi and some drills that you guys can do. I'll put it in the description. But one of my main complaints when I saw it after Philippe sent it to me, I was like, it's in Swedish. I can't understand it. It looks good, but I can't understand a single thing he said.
Yeah. But you're the one that sends me like French videos like, hey, Juan, look at this explanation of this Ashiwaza here by this French guy. It's all in French.
I understand a bit of French and I understand a bit of Japanese, so I can watch those two, but I don't know any Swedish. So I'd have to ask,
fault is that, Anthony?
Well, yeah, it's totally Philippe's fault for not teaching me Swedish. But after I mentioned that, I think Philippe might have told him that, or I don't know. But anyway, as of 10 hours ago, I'm looking at it right now. As of 10 hours ago of this recording, he released an English version of that video, which I'll link. But it's kind of weird because it's his voice, but he dubbed over himself. So it's dubbed over his Swedish video. But yeah, long story short, go check out that video.
Hong Kong action film.
Yeah. Yeah, I get exactly what you're saying, because I'm like, I know they're speaking Chinese and they're like dubbing over themselves, but especially when it's in Mandarin sometimes, then now you have like the mouth movement is like Chinese, but then they're speaking Mandarin, and yeah, it gets confusing. But so that's that, right? Another thing I want to talk about was I've been catching up on a lot of podcasts and books that I've been wanting to read, and then a lot of stuff on my to-do list, like cleaning the house. I need to order a new dining table. But speaking of podcasts and stuff, one of the things I've been binge listening on, especially I've been driving around so much in the car, is I've been catching up on the BJJ Mental Models podcast, and two episodes that stuck out to me was one about skincare for BJJ, because I have eczema, like I said, and it gets irritated every single time I go train. So there's some, they interview with some dermatologists who is in their community, and they talk about how you can tackle eczema and other skin disease and other skin, not diseases, but like conditions. But he also talks about cleanliness, like how to avoid staph and ringworm and stuff. And one of the things is to wash your belt. And I know a lot of people are going to say, screw that, I ain't washing my belt. Yeah, so ignoring the washing the belt part, even, it's really interesting listen. So go check it out. And also another episode was about the interview Nick Winkelman about his book, Language of Coaching. I actually read his book before I listened to this episode, but it talks about coaching and cues, like verbal cues for coaching. And the reason why I thought it was interesting and follow my Instagram was because I think it was last week we were teaching this guy Osotogari, and you used the word kick to describe the Osotogari leg sweep, right? Like kick backwards, and I used the word push, and he was confused and to say like, why are you guys using, like, why are you using those words? Like, why is it push and not kick or whatever? It's the same thing. It's just we're trying to get him to bring his foot all the way back, right? So, really interesting episode in his book. I recommend his book too, to talk about language of coaching, how you got to be careful about the words that you pick, right, for the person you're coaching. And for example, push might work for some people for me, but kick might work for other people. So, I recommend checking that out. If you have questions about the book, since I read it and you don't want to read it, just ask me. I'll talk about it. DM me. So that's what I've been up to. Like, have you been doing any reading or?
I don't read. I watch videos. You know me. I watch a bunch of videos, cartoons, and stuff, tons of things. Yes. I was like, if Goku can get him like that, I wonder if I could. Can I do a Kaneko Buster in a judo match? If you know what a Kaneko Buster is, no, you can't do it in a judo match, but you can try. No, you can't try. You can't grab the legs no more. What I did do kind of one thing interesting today is that a friend of mine, Raul, my catch wrestling coach, so today we had not really a tournament, but like a scrimmage. So I think we had like 5 matches. So he put this whole thing up like catch wrestling event going to happen. I was like, oh, you need people to come. Like I put it on our Instagram. I put it on my Instagram stuff to let people know about it. And then after that, he told me, oh, no, I just want like a few matches to record videos to put on my YouTube. And so I was like, why did you advertise it then? Because I was like, I'm going to help you out.
He's a born influencer. It's in his blood, I think.
It was like, I want to help my buddy out here. So I want to get people to come and stuff. But like, do you want me to put the location, time? It's get free and it costs money. Make sure to put the rules out so that people know and stuff. Because I know we get a lot of BJJ practitioners who come to our catch wrestling things. And then like today, 2 of them got upset when they got pinned. And it's like, I'm sorry, your shoulder on the mat for 2 seconds. That's a pin. Because, okay, so I told him to help him out. He had 10 matches at this pro wrestling club over in, over in the valley.
First things first, I saw your Instagram story. So is it real wrestling or is it fake wrestling?
No, it was real catch wrestling. Okay. Real catch wrestling rules. Everyone there was a catch wrestler except one guy. I think he was a pro wrestler that does a little bit of submission grappling or something on the side. But the reason Raul wanted to use it there because he had good lighting. I asked him if we were going to use a fight science, and he said, no, they don't have good lighting there, and he wanted more space. So we literally had catch wrestling matches in a pro wrestling ring, which was kind of interesting. First time I've ever done that. Usually I've been
because I saw the pro wrestling ring. I'm like,
yeah. Yeah. But he wanted to do it there because they had better lighting. Because I guess they do like small indie shows there as well. Yeah. It was called, was it MPW? I think that's what their name was. I can't remember what their legit name was, but their initial name was MPW.
There's a abandoned lot near my house where they've been renting it out for pro wrestling matches. So
really?
Yeah.
Sounds interesting. So I asked Raul if he needed help and stuff because I'd help him promote it. Then he asked if I could come help and run the thing. I was like, yeah, no problem. Then he asked, can I ref? And I was like, I know the rules, but there are still a little few rules that I get fuzzy on. And he says, it's not gonna be super strict, just the main rules and stuff. Like the biggest rules in catch wrestling that confuse people is in traditional catch wrestling, rule of snake pit, no chokes. Okay. You can have your arms around the throat, but you can't choke the person out with this. It's more about face cranks and hold downs and stuff. And the second one is that's a 2
face cranks to turn people over, right?
Yeah. One guy got submitted with it today, actually.
With a face crank. So you can't choke them. You can face crank them into submission.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. So the thing is the 2-second pin. It's not like pro wrestling. I'm like 1, 2, hit the bell. No, it's just it's supposed, in your head supposed to count like 1, okay, 2. And I was doing slap mat since I'm a whistle with me. So in my head, I'm like, okay, they're on the mat. 1 slap. That's what I'm doing. I think some people were expecting me to do like the 1, 2,
2, 3 because they watched too much WWE.
Yeah. And I try to explain to when we doing the rules and stuff. Like,
did you guys not explain the rules before the match started?
No, we did. We did explain the rules because some of these people do catch wrestling with us. Some of them are BJJ people. I said, and like I said, I think one of them, the pro wrestler guy from the gym, or maybe heard about us or something, that did a little bit of submission grappling also. It was really cool though. Everybody was cool. We explained the rules like, okay, no chokes. It's a 2-second pin. I'm not going to be 1-2. If your shoulders are on the mat, they're on the mat. If you're in guard position with the guy and they put your shoulders on the mat, 1-2, that's a pin. Because I know a lot of BJJ people will be like, oh, I'm secure right here.
You lose when you get pinned, right? You don't lose points.
Yeah, that's it.
You just lose.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just lose. It's tap or pin. That's all it is. No points. So that's pretty fun. You know,
so what happens if someone tries to choke someone
there's a few times I had to call a few people. I had to be like, wash your neck. And one person was like, oh, it's a chin hold. Like, okay, just wash your neck. All right. To let them know I see it and I'll stop it. No loose position.
So you stop it. There's no like Shido or anything like that.
No.
Okay.
I was like, stop it, maybe stand back up. I didn't have to. Because as soon as I would say something, people would let it go immediately. No one like fought me over it. The other thing is that since we're in a pro wrestling ring, when people are up in the corners against the ropes, some people are like putting their arms around the ropes. And I'd be like, let go of ropes. Let go of those ropes. I was gonna be like pride style, like kicking their legs and stuff to get them off it. But people let go as soon as I said that. Yeah. One person, when they were being taken down, I said, let go of the ropes. They let go of the ropes. Then the person tried to take them. Yeah, tried to take them down. They tried to grab for the rope again.
Well, it's like it's your natural reaction, right? So
yeah. So those would be up on Raul's Catch Wrestling Alliance on his YouTube channel. I think he might put them on Instagram too. Yeah. But he just wanted to do something to get more catch wrestling videos out there. Because the last time he did something was, I want to say like almost 5 years. It was before the pandemic. So 3, 4, maybe 5 years ago he did something.
Yeah. We also we did an interview with him about catch wrestling. So go back. I'll link it in the description again, but check it out if you're interested in catch wrestling.
Yeah. So, and if you're here in LA, you want to train with us or train with Raul at least, because I don't train there that often anymore. It's Thursday nights at Fight Science here in Mid-City in LA. I believe it's at, was it at 7 or 8 o'clock? I can't remember, but you can look up on the Instagram, find that out. As well as he teaches a class at UCLA. He teaches his Sandow class and his catch wrestling there as well. So
I used to confuse Fight Science with Fight Sports all the time until that thing happened to Fight Sports. So now I know like, Fight Sports is the one that fights. Oh, I'm gonna cut that out.
Yeah, I know.
That's not what I meant to say. It's the one with the controversy. No, right? It's not the whole gym. It's just that one guy. And Fight Science is the one out here by UCLA, right? UCLA.
Yeah. Well, it's not near it's in Mid-City. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, I'm glad
if you know LA, you know it's Mid-City.
I'm glad I differentiated that because my wife works with a guy who got his BJJ black belt from Fight Science. And I definitely don't want to be like, cool. You train in that place. Like, so.
Yeah, but this is the first time he did something.
It's November. It's November and the end of the year holiday parties coming up. So I'm probably going to see him again. I definitely don't want to get that wrong at the holiday party. So.
Oh, yes. But so that should be really fun. I did reffing there this time, and maybe next time I might do a match. But he asked me to do a match this time. I told him no, since I'm getting ready for Winter Nationals. So got ready for that. And if he wasn't reffing, I don't know who he would have ref. It'd just be him with a camera and reffing at the same time, maybe. All right, so that's what we've been doing lately. Now let's get down to some brass tacks, get down to the business. So last episode, we talked about that IJF was doing, I don't know if it was like on their own or if they teamed up with them, whatever. They were working with Minecraft. Okay. They brought this Minecraft thing about the mysteries of the Kodokan. And we joked about, and Anthony actually joked about being like, hey, Minecraft is somewhat popular still, but you know what's really popular now
among kids Roblox.
It's Roblox. And in Roblox, you can actually throw people in Roblox. Mm-hmm. So was it last week or this week? I think it was last week they posted it up.
I think it was the week after. I'm like, damn, they work fast.
they listened to our episode and was like, oh, we're already behind? Shit. Put out another NFT for this one. So they're teaming up, or they did their own thing. I don't know exactly, but now there's an IJF Judo thing on Roblox, which Anthony was telling me that's cool because he already knew that on Roblox. I don't know if it was Anthony or my other friend, if Matt told me that you can actually throw people in Roblox.
Yeah, right? You can actually throw people. They actually demonstrated it in the Instagram video. I didn't see a post on Instagram about it. Like usually you make a post about it. They just posted it on their story. So hopefully they'll be, well, I didn't actually look it up. Maybe it's on their IJF website, but it's up there. If I find it, I'll post it.
I tried.
You can find it.
Mm-hmm. No, I couldn't find it.
Okay. So
I couldn't find anything about it when I was doing my research on it. So
I don't know. I'll probably look into it and report back, since I want to play it. I want to try it. I'm interested in Roblox. Mm-hmm. So I hear a lot of things about it. And as people know, I'm a programmer. So I know a lot of kids use Roblox to learn programming. And I think there's a market. You can actually make money out of it. Like you can write like mods and games and stuff and sell it. So I'm going to probably look into it. I've avoided, speaking of grooming children, I've avoided for the longest time because a lot of people criticize Roblox for not doing more things to protect their children user base, because a lot of people see that a lot of kids use Roblox. So a lot of people go on Roblox hoping to, like, you know, not going to get into it. But if you are a parent, when you want your kid to check out Roblox, just be wary and monitor their usage of the thing and who they talk to online and all that kind of stuff. So
always. Well, since you know a little bit more about it than I did, like I saw, so with the thing with Minecraft, they want to do like the history of judo, little puzzles and stuff, the mazes and all that to get certain things. Do you do the same thing in Roblox, or
I don't know? What you saw was what I saw, and I want to play it just because I want to throw someone in a video game. So
no, but does Roblox like do like puzzles and stuff, like puzzles and mazes?
Roblox is like a sandbox. It can be anything you want. And like I said, you can program anything you want. And I think that's, I don't want to say they stole the idea from Minecraft, but I think they built upon Minecraft and made it more free in what you can do in the game. So yeah, I was watching that kid in our class play on his cell phone, and it looked like Grand Theft Auto with throwing people.
Holy crap.
One game he was playing. Yeah. That's what it looked like. And there was another one that looked like Street Fighter, another game that looked like Street Fighter, like an arcade fighting game. Mm-hmm. And then I think you can also just build stuff like Minecraft. So please don't at me about like, trying to explain to me what Roblox is, because I'm going to find out for myself and I don't want to get spoiled. So yeah.
Don't at me. I don't care. I don't care. I tried doing research on it. I could not find the IGF stuff on it anymore. Like I tried looking for video again because it was on their reel, so it was already gone already. But I tried looking at other videos and stuff, and I could not find anything on it. So I was like, "What is this? Was this something they did for a day, a week? It's already gone. I don't know. I don't play this." So that was a little interesting thing, you know. So some other interesting news that came out. Now, this is for America mostly. Like other countries have their own sponsorships and stuff. Like I believe the French team, are they sponsored by Under Armour, or is it just certain players?
No, I think it's just Teddy Riner.
Just Teddy Riner. Okay.
Yeah. I don't even know if it's still happening, but maybe it is. I don't know. Mostly because he hasn't been competing. That's why I don't know.
Yeah. What's the Spanish player that wears the PlayStation gi?
I don't know. I've never seen the PlayStation gi. I just heard you talk about it. So
I've seen the PlayStation gi. I'm trying to look for this PlayStation gi. All right. So, all right. Well, let's get to, so America, the USA Judo, United States Judo has now entered a sponsorship with Nike in their, what is it called? The APS, which is Athletic Performance Solutions. Mm-hmm. So if you look at USA Wrestling now, you can see Nike all over their stuff now. They're wearing Nike gis, they're wearing Nike singlets, Nike shirts, Nike warm-ups, Nike backpacks. They got Nike wrestling shoes, which is funny to me because growing up, Nike was the worst wrestling shoes to buy. If you're a wrestler growing up back in my day, you wear Asics or Adidas. All right. I was an Asics man myself. So you were Asics or Adidas because Nikes were kind of known that they were kind of like I don't want to say it, but it's like, you know, my terms, it's a mark, you know, you're wearing it because the brand, like, oh, Nike's good. Nike did not make good wrestling shoes. They would always fall apart and stuff. And this is back in my day, again, like 20 years ago when I was wrestling in high school and college and all that. So now when I saw the USA team wearing Nike, I was like, oh, I hope they're making better shoes now. And that kind of explains to me why also I was looking for some new wrestling shoes. And when I went to the store, the guy was like, oh, we'll have the Nike so-and-so's here. And I was like, I don't know Nike wrestling shoes. Get that out of my face. What is this shit?
Wait, like, so I know you're saying Asics was the thing to go to when you were wrestling?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Because I like Asics and Adidas. Not for wrestling, for running.
Yeah. Asics and Adidas were good wrestling shoes to buy. So it reminds me, I think I might buy some new wrestling shoes this year for myself, just for fun. But moving on from that. So USA Judo made the announcement that they're now partnering up with Nike to make Nike branded things for USA Judo. So that means that you're going to soon see Nike Judogis, Nike Judo pants, maybe some Nike regular rash guard, but like Judo rash guards. I see have like Nike symbol with a Judo across it or something. Probably Nike Judo bags and shirts, the USA Judo Nike shirts and stuff like you do for wrestling. And for me and Anthony, we're talking about, this is really good because if they enter into sponsorship, hopefully they can help sponsor some of these wrestlers, some of these judo players now. Now, I'm not saying
I wouldn't hold my breath for that.
I'm saying I got hope for it. Okay. And my thing, I'm not one of these guys that I'm not crazy thinking like, they're going to pay these judo players to train. Like, at least give them money to travel. Okay. Pay for traveling expenses, maybe pay for some food expenses, but not like they're eating that much anyways. They're cutting weight for a damn tournament. But my thing is I hope that they help a lot of these fighters with their traveling expenses. Because like when we interviewed Ajax, he used to talk about all the stuff he had to pay for himself, do sponsorships, do all these things about how to get money to travel. And that's my thing, that I wish they would help them travel more to get more points to go do things. So what is your idea about Nike now, Nike Judo Gis and Nike sponsoring USA Judo?
There's so many things to think about because as a fan.
One more thing. So before I finish this, they are sponsoring the senior team, the junior team, the cadet team, and the para team.
With sponsoring, you're talking about gear, providing gear. That's what you mean.
That's it. Just said they're sponsoring them and all these things. So I'm assuming it's gear.
Okay.
Hopefully, and maybe money.
So here's my thought. It's going to be long. So,
all right.
One,
strap in.
I'm as you know, me and also Travis and many of my friends like Mizuno gear, right? And for the longest time in America, you can only buy Mizuno apparel. I'm not talking about gis, apparel through USA Judo, right? So everything that's Mizuno labeled as judo wise for judo has the freaking USA Judo name on it. And I don't want to buy, I just want something like a Mizuno rash guard. I don't want USA Judo on it, or a Mizuno tracksuit without USA Judo on it, which is why when I was in Japan, I was buying all this stuff, even though, not all this stuff, because being me, I don't fit in Japanese sizes.
What are you, like a 4X, a 4L?
They don't even make that big. That's the thing, right? And for me, it's mostly my shoulders. How wide? It's not even the sleeve length. It's how wide my shoulders are. It's not common. So I barely everything. I would Hulk shred out their shirts and stuff like that, basically. So for me, that was that problem. And now that you're telling me Nike's entering a deal with USA Judo, I kind of hope that they will stop selling the Mizuno USA Judo gear. And maybe, just maybe, we'll start seeing American USA Judo stuff sold. Like not American USA Judo stuff, American sized Mizuno gear sold in the USA, is what I meant to say. So that's number one, right? Number two is I think they're sponsoring them because of the LA Olympics happening in 2028. So I think they just want to start like getting their first dibs before other companies do that. Because I mean, Adidas is already a big name in judo, right? So they're probably like, hey, we want to get into in the judo market internationally, maybe even. Let's start here with an American market with the LA Olympics before Adidas or Under Armour gets their hands on the American market. Sorry, my dog's like clawing at the door. So
ghost.
So that's why I think they're doing. This is a good way to test the waters, and especially if they're not. When you say sponsor, like, are they giving them like a stipend? Are they giving them like a sponsorship deal? Like, I don't want to say $1 million a year, but maybe $10,000 a year per adult, like for the athletes. Because remember, signing a deal with USA Judo is different than sponsoring an athlete. Like signing a deal with, let's say, Ajax Tadahara or whatever, right? That's a separate thing. So we really, I don't want to like think too far ahead, but I think they're just basically saying, hey, we're paying you for the right to post Nike signs up at USA Judo Nationals and maybe start selling judo gears, right? So I think for the most part, for a recreational player like us, like, doesn't really make a difference. If anything, like, I'm excited to see what the Nike Judo gi looks like, and whether we even be able to buy it. So
we can afford it, you mean, or what?
No, whether we
the Air Force Ones and the Judo gi size 5, please.
For example, Uniqlo, the Japanese company Uniqlo, sponsors a lot of tennis athletes, and the stuff that they make for the tennis athletes you can't buy here. You can't buy anywhere. They're just made for the tennis athletes, and they're just sponsoring them. So who knows? Maybe they'll make these nice judo gis that you can't even buy for yourself. So, as someone who likes different types of gis, I'm curious, and I'd like to be able to see another gi brand on the market that's not Japanese. One of the complaints that people have a lot about Japanese gis are how baggy around the waist it is. I'd like to see like a quote unquote slim Euro cut gi made in America. Who am I kidding? It's not gonna be made in America. Nike's not gonna make it in America, but it'll be interesting to see what kind of designs. Yeah, whether it'll be just a plain white gi with a check mark on the chest, or whether it'll be or not the chest because that's reserved for something else, but on the shoulder, or whether it be like Adidas where it has stripes or something. I don't know. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. I don't think anything's gonna come out from it because we all know judo viewership is low in general already, especially in America. Like, not even people who train judo really watch much IJF judo matches other than highlights. So yeah, who knows? I don't think people. Back to our Ajax interview, what Ajax said was like, people don't sponsor you out of the goodness of their heart or the love of the sport, especially, well, rarely they do, right? So they want to see a return on their investments.
They want
something. So
they want something.
Who knows what Nike sees, right? Like I said, I think they see the LA Olympics, and after that, who knows what's going to happen. So
I can totally understand where you're coming from right there. I totally get it. Back to the judo gi thing. Like, yeah, it would be interesting if they do seriously start making gis and are serious about it, and they sell judo gis on their website or something on their website, or just make a separate website, or if they sell them on what's Fuji's sells other site, like
Ippon Gear.
Yeah, like Ippon Gear or something like that. They sell them there, and it'd be interesting to see how much how much they cost, to see if like they try to charge, if they're charging like Fuji prices, or they're charging like Adidas prices, or if they're charging Mizuno prices, because they think the name enough is going to sell them. Like, oh, I want Adidas, I want a Nike gi, and that'd be something also to try. If they do sell these gis, I might be interested to buy one. Just, I know I'm not I'm gonna say it. I don't know if I can. I'm not a fan of Nike. Okay,
I'm not a fan of Nike either.
Yeah, but I would Anthony will buy a Nike gi just so we can try it out.
Just to try it out. And also,
or I'll get the dojo somehow to buy me a gi.
Well, no, also, I want to say, like, if this does happen and you guys want Nike to continue sponsoring the events, go buy a Nike gi. Like, especially if you're like, oh, I need a new gi, or I'm curious, then go buy a Nike gi just so you're put your money where your mouth is. Now it's like, oh, Nike might be like, oh, the gi sales are pretty good. Maybe we should like start sponsoring athletes or something like that. But if you don't care about competitive judo like I do, then like whatever, right? But so if you see the gi come out, don't just be like, oh, cool, it's a gi. I hope they make some more of them, but not buy one. I'm not going to buy one. Then that's not really helpful.
Well, my idea.
So
yeah. Well, my idea about the gi is that I kind of think, this is just me brainstorming my own head. I don't think, because of the way Nike is, the way they do stuff, I don't see Nike just putting like a little Nike symbol on the little shoulder right here thing. I think they'll do the whole thing with like the top ridge area here. Will have like the Adidas stripes. I think there'd be a giant Nike swoosh right there on both sides, I bet. So that when they're fighting, you see this giant swoosh on the side of them right here. And might put the swoosh they might put it right here on the shoulder also, but I think it'll be a giant swoosh right there where you see the Adidas stripes. That's my thing. Because there's not a lot of places they can put the gi, they can put the swoosh on a gi. The second thing is that we can only go off what they sell Nike gear for the rest. Like for me, I can only go off what they sell for wrestlers. So in wrestlers, they sell shoes. You see the Nike swoosh on the shoes and stuff. They sell backpacks that are catered to wrestlers, which could just go to judo also because it's very similar. And they sell shirts and hoodies and mouth guards and all that stuff. So it's not gonna be that hard to sell that in a judo style. They'll put a karate gi. I bet you they'll probably put a karate gi on there, not knowing the difference. I'm 100% sure they'll put a karate gi on there. But they'll put a gi on there, say USA Judo, Nike, whatever on there, and a swoosh and stuff like that. But they don't, that I have seen it. You can correct me if you do a little deeper look. I don't think they do. I don't think they sell the USA Wrestling singlets, I don't think they do. They might, but I can't remember off the top of my head. I didn't look into it. That's a good question. If you're going to sell them or not. I don't remember seeing them for sale. I remember seeing like the warm-ups for sale, shirts for sale, backpacks, and shoes.
It reminds me of Quintet. You know, remember Quintet when they had the Judo Dream Team? I wanted that rash guard so bad, but they don't sell it, right? So
they don't sell it. You go find it go take it off of who was on that team. Ishii. Ishii, you're gonna wear that rash guard no more. You fit me. I can wear that rash guard.
Yeah, like that's a good. It'll be interesting to think what the gis would look like. But this is like going off the best case scenario that I don't think will ever happen. But it'll be cool if it becomes like Air Jordan, you know, like how there's Nike SB has their own, skateboarding has their own logo, Air Jordan, Nike has their own logo. So there maybe could be an Air Kayla, you know?
Okay. Yeah.
Like a different type of Air,
she's
right?
Sponsored by Fuji. She's Fuji though.
That's true. That's true.
I get the Air. I get the Air thing.
Yeah. So, it'll be cool if it has its own logo, right? Versus just a Nike swoosh. But I don't think that'll happen. They need a pretty big market for that. I like Ippon Gear's quality, and fit. I actually really like how Ippon Gear Judogis fit. But I think the name Ippon Gear is really cheesy. Like, I don't know what it is about judo and especially American judo. And just like all the cheesy apparel that they have, no,
I don't know. Please explain.
I'm trying to think of the shirts that I see online for judo versus for BJJ. It's just really, really cheesy. Like, I don't know. I'll have to look it up and find some examples, but it's stuff that I would not wear, basically. Off
topic. Okay. It's a shirt. There's a rash guard on Fuji that they don't sell anymore now, but it took for when I first saw this rash guard, I thought it was the ugliest rash guard I've seen before. But then it grew on me because every time I kept going inside, I see it. So they had this rash guard that was a white rash guard with red sleeves and just had judo written on it. Judo, 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 judo. And you and me would joke around looking like it looked like a bird victim. Okay. That rash guard. You remember that one? You remember?
I know exactly what you're talking about, but I thought bird victim was hilarious because I know exactly what kind of bird victim you're talking about. Because that rash guard, when I finally was like, you want to know what? I'm going to buy that rash guard. It's grown. I'm going to buy it. They ran out of my size and they said, we're out of stock. We'll redo later. It's off the site now. So they don't sell it anymore. So I'm taking that rash guard didn't sell that well then. Okay. I just quickly Googled it. Google image search judo t-shirts. And these are some that are like, okay. This one says judo, touch me and your first lesson is free.
Oh, is that the little kid ones? Or they have those weird sunset.
No. It's just I'm sure grown ass adults wear this, and you don't who know you're messing with. Like, God. Judo champion, strength and courage, pride and honor. Like, this is stuff that, I just would not wear it. It's just really cringy. Sorry. Yeah, but
it is. Like, you go on Amazon and look up judo, karate, or taekwondo, and you'll get like most ugliest basic ass shirts that you can find. Seriously. Yeah.
And I think jujitsu, BJJ is also kind of heading in towards the same directions as some of them. But they started off pretty cool, a lot of them. I just would not wear it. So that's
like my catch wrestling shirts I wear that are super cool.
I do like catch wrestling gear, like especially the Gotch Fight Wear. Their designs, I really like them a lot. So
yeah. All right. So that's Nike going into judo as a sponsorship to sponsor uniforms and stuff. I hope they help out the players. I hope they give them some money and stuff, not just here's a free white gi with a Nike swoosh on it. But that's going to be coming up. And Anthony brings up a good point about they're just doing this for Olympics. They might be. Hopefully they're not, but they might be. All right. So after that, do you want to go into talking about, since the night after, the UFC fight at all?
Yeah, let's talk about it briefly, really quick.
All right. So last night was UFC 281, and the big fight was Izzy Adesanya versus Alex Pereira for the 185 title. All right. And everybody knows the big story about and this already happened. So you might have already seen the fight and stuff already.
It'll be like a week from now for people who are listening. Yeah.
So spoiler alert, Alex Pereira has knocked out Izzy in the fifth round referee stoppage. Okay. And I know Anthony.
Is that what they label as knockouts now?
Yeah. Or it's a TKO. It would be a TKO.
Yeah, it'll be a TKO, but technical knockout, I guess. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because I haven't heard them use technical knockout in a while, so I don't know if they still use it or not. Actually,
that's why I'm always confused when Bruce Buffer at the end is like, sometimes he would say TKO. I'm like, okay, I can see it, right? Because they stopped it. But sometimes like due to a knockout by referee stoppage, I'm like, what? What?
Due to knockout by referee stoppage, like you did last night.
Is that what you said last night?
So what did you think of the fights? No, I don't know. I watched it, but I wasn't paying enough attention at that point. I was texting you back.
Yeah.
Because I didn't get to watch the fights yet. So I got home and I watched them and I was like, oh, I text Anthony back now. Anthony and Eric back.
I only watched the last fight, the main event, because I was out with family. So I only got home late. And I watched a highlight of Wei Li versus of what's her name? I don't remember. I'm gonna get lost.
No one's remember her name, even though she's a 2-time champion.
Yeah, I don't think.
I feel bad saying that.
I know, because I don't think she's that great, and I'm just like, oh wow, she's really lucky. But luck's part of it, just like in judo, right? I knew Wei Li was gonna win, so I didn't feel like I wanted to go back and look at it.
Let's go to the first fight. Let's talk about the first fight. All right, then we'll talk about Wei Li versus Carla Esparza next. Okay, so talk about the first fight.
What's the first fight?
Let's talk about the first championship. So we talk about Izzy versus Alex. So you thought, I'm just put out there.
That's not the first. That's technically the second.
It's the last fight of the night. All right, we're starting back.
Let's talk about that one. All right, if you want to talk about the second fight, let's talk about the second fight. That's what you mean. I thought the stoppage was early, and a lot of people are like, "No, it's not." They're trying to like, okay. My problem with it's just like it was judo refereeing. It's consistency, right? If that is the standard for a stoppage, then they should do that for all fights. Whenever the person is like little days like that, then they should stop it, right? But that's not what they do. Sometimes they let the guy fall to the floor, turtle for like 10 seconds, and then stumble up and then start weaving their head, punches. And then they recover, and then they're like, oh, he came back, or then they stop it, right? So my problem with the with the fight is with the call, with the stoppage, is the consistency. They're inconsistent. I think there was possibility he would have came back because he did eat a lot of punches, but he was weaving the punches. Maybe he ate like 2 more, I personally would have stopped it. But again, consistency is my problem with the stoppage. If that's the standard for a stoppage, then anytime someone gets knocked down and then eat 2 more punches, and you should they should just stop it, right? Because to me, this stoppage was pretty close to how Dominic Cruz got stopped by Keith Bryant. And if that's the standard, then that's the standard. And I just recall most of the fights I've seen otherwise outside of this one that were championship fights, they let the person get like give them a good amount of time and say, protect yourself, protect yourself before they even stop it, right?
Like Oliveira, Oliveira, all his comeback wins, like he gets killed the first round. Like, no, keep going. Let him keep going.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So that's my problem with the stoppage. I think it was an early stoppage because of that reasoning, right? So, like in judo terms, I guess it would be like refereeing a kid's in-house tournament. You stop it early before anything happens. So, that's my thought of fight. I personally, though, I'm not a huge Izzy fan, and I thought he was the better fighter. But I kind of knew he would get knocked out in the end. I didn't tell anyone this. It was just in my head when someone told me, "Are you watching the fight?" I was like, "Oh, I'm not at home right now." But I didn't tell anyone what I thought. That was what I was going to do. If I had to bet beforehand, like before the match, put money on a fight, this is what I bet would have happened. Was I don't know if I would say I called it will happen in the last round, but I would have called that Izzy would be dominating the fight and then he would get knocked out. Was what my money was going to be on.
Get caught.
Yep.
Now, I'm going to totally say now it's going to be fully biased because I'm not an Izzy fan, which most people will be like, how are you not an Izzy fan? You love striking and you love anime and stuff. Yeah, but he's a... God, I don't want to say.
See, I'm also not I'm also not a Floyd Mayweather fan, right? I agree. It takes a lot of skills to do what they do, but I feel like they're playing by the rule. It's like, it's not combat for me. It's kind of like you're playing by the to the rules at that point. So I don't want to say it's not combat. That's an over exaggeration, but you know what I mean? It's I'd like to chase beautiful judo, like playing Ippon judo versus doing Yuko judo. I mean, you know what I mean, right? So
yeah, totally. So with me, I thought the stoppage was pretty decent. I didn't think it was like a terrible stoppage. I wasn't like super upset about it. I was fine. And to me, like you were talking about how Izzy was like starting to bob and weave. He was bobbing and weaving into punches. That's the whole thing to me. Like if he was slipping punches still, I would have been more like, hey, he was slipping. To me, it looked to me like he was
stopped
slipping
before he slipped into the punches.
He slipped into a few punches. When he was crouching down trying to do a little head thing, he was like taking shots every time he weaved.
That's one of the reasons why. Actually, I was talking to Scotty about this. I think he was like, well, it looks better in slow motion because you see in slow motion he dodges and weaves through the punches, but in real time the referee, I understand a referee in real time would have like want to stop it. So no, he was dodging and weaving the punches. Maybe I have a good eye, so I saw it in real time.
I don't know what you're talking about.
No, he was dodging and weaving after the first one, so that's what I think.
Yeah. Either way, they're going to be in an immediate rematch. They cannot not do an immediate rematch.
I know, and I don't. I know I compared it to Ippon judo versus Yuko judo, but I understand the guy has a lot of power, so he has to fight that way, and play by the rules. But this is why I have a problem with weight cuts and how they're done, like in weight classes in general in most combat sports, is because this guy's freaking huge. He shouldn't be fighting this guy. They're a wrong matchup, right? Whenever you need to,
what are you talking about? They both weighed 85.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I have a problem with how the weight cuts are done, because then these kind of matchups, size differences happen, and you force people like Izzy to fight in a certain way because he can't afford getting clocked by that one punch. It's one thing if you're the same size and you can generate that much power, but it's another thing when you're clearly in different weight classes and the guy's generating that much power over you because of that reason. But that's a different discussion. That's beyond that fight. That's going into cutting weight. So,
all right. So, yeah. So the other title fight of the night was Carla Esparza versus Weili Zhang. Zhang. Zhang Weili correctly. Yeah, John Way. Yeah, I keep wanting to say John Way Park for some reason. It's terrible. So they had a fight for Carla Esparza's title. Weili, she won in the second round via rear naked choke, and it was really cool the way she got it.
It was a crucifix.
She got into a crucifix. Yeah. She first got in a crucifix with a one-handed choke. Like if she had a gi there, it would have been a beautiful. Would it still be a koreajime? No, it'd be.
I think it was just. Well, yeah, it would be everything that doesn't fall. Every lapel. This is what's the problem with judo's Nawaza classification is that they don't really care about it. So there's only a few boxes that they created for everything. So anything that involves a gi that they can't think of what box to put it into is like just stuff it in the Okuri and Ijime box. So
you're gonna go to Jima box. Just put it in the box. So she had this really cool crucifix position. He had the arm, and she's like rear naked choking her with the other arm and stuff. It would be the right arm, I think she was choking her with. And then she lets go of the arm. And then she gets a full RNC, the full rear naked choke onto her. And Carla taps. And that's the end of Carla Esparza's second reign. So this is now 2 reigns for her with 0 defenses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, one defense, I thought. Against, what's her name? Joanna?
No, Joanna beat her.
You're talking about Weili, right?
No, I'm talking about Joanna. Carla. Carla Esparza. Yeah. Carla. Because Carla won the Ultimate Fighter, I believe. She won the Ultimate Fighter against Doug Rose. And then her next match was against Joanna. Lost that one, and then Joanna won on her big old thing, and then all that happened. So now she got the title again.
I'll be honest. I stopped following that weight class after Joanna retired. So
she was fun to watch. She was.
She's so technical, you know.
We both talk about how she was one of our favorite fighters. So
yeah.
But yeah, so now Weiling's now the two-time strawweight women's champion, two-time strawweight champion. And let's see how far she goes. Let's see who she fights next. But it's really good that she used her wrestling in there, because everyone's thinking that, oh, well, Carla's main thing is that she's a wrestler. She takes people down. She can control people. That's her whole thing. But it seems like whenever she goes against good strikers, except for when she won this title the second time, she doesn't know what to do. She doesn't like to get hit, it still seems.
Well, Weili's also really freaking strong physically compared to her.
Oh yeah, you saw that video where she picked up Francis.
Yeah, Francis. Yeah, she's physically really strong. So I think she's kind of like Derek Lewising. She can Derek Lewis out of a lot of positions, I think. So
Derek Lewis out of just using that good strength. Yeah, and I know you told me before, like which kung fu style does she do or something?
She tried everything. She cross trains a lot of stuff. So she does Shui Jiao, which is like Chinese. People are gonna get offended by. It's not Chinese judo, but that's what people call it, right? Chinese wrestling, grappling, and she's trained Wing Chun. She's one of those people that cross trains everything, right? Kind of like how Anderson Silva did JKD and Wing Chun for a bit, just to get a new perspective on things. Doesn't make them a Wing Chun person. I watched sumo. Sumo guy Endo went to train judo for Andre Isao, Okano Isao. Yeah, so he trained with him for a bit. Doesn't make him a judo guy. He's still a sumo guy. Shohei Ono went to train sumo a few times. Just to get a new perspective on things. Cross training doesn't mean he's a sumo guy. I want to go train sumo. Doesn't make me a sumo guy either. So. Yeah.
Oh, you're such a sumo guy. You came to the dojo in the diaper and everything. All right. Such a sumo guy. All right. So that's just a small recap of what happened last UFC event. It was a really good card. If you haven't watched it, watch it. Actually, the entire main card was a good card. I haven't got to watch the undercard yet. I'll probably watch it later today.
Carolina's in the early prelim. She's one of my favorites too, to watch. Even though she's not, I don't think she's that good. But I like watching her. Also because she's pretty. So.
Okay, now let's move on from there. Now Anthony's gonna get himself in trouble there if his wife listens to this podcast.
No, she agrees. She likes watching her for the same reason.
No, okay. You're setting you up, man. She's setting you up for that one day. One day she's gonna get you. All right. All right. So the last thing we're talking about is kind of a question that we have from some of our students. It's about etiquette for judo. And it's not just etiquette for judo at the dojos, but etiquette when you go traveling, because we're getting towards here in America, we're going to that holiday season. People are going to start traveling for Thanksgiving. People are going to travel for Christmas, New Year's, the holidays after that and stuff. Like it's getting toward the time where people are going to take their winter vacations. So they want to know, like, what do I need to do or bring, or how should I act when I go visit my family and I want to go look at a dojo, like what I usually do and what you do also.
Yep.
So Anthony, when you go visit a dojo, what's the first, do you like to call them first or do you like to show up?
Well, the first thing I do is I do research, right? Oh man, so many thoughts went through my head from my last trip, but I always do research to see what kind of, well, first of all, the schedule even matches the distance location wise and the schedule of their classes, whether it even matches my trip itinerary. So for example, my next trip is going to visit my wife's family in Maryland. And there's like at least 3 different clubs I want to visit there, but I only have time for one. Okay.
I thought you weren't allowed to go do judo on this trip.
No, I actually got the okay just now. So,
just now. Okay, good.
Yeah. So there's actually 3 clubs I want to visit, and I have to only pick one. And how I ended up whittling down to one was my first choice was actually this club that teaches using some of the new methods I've been talking about. And I really want to pick the guy's head on it. I might still go. I don't know. I'll see if I can fit it in. But when I looked at their website, it's all no gi BJJ. So I was like, man, I'd never done no gi before. I don't want to go and waste this guy's time, basically, right? Even though I'd probably be paying the money, which is different from judo. We'll talk about wasting time later on. But so my second choice was this guy who actually I think listens to our podcast. I need to send him an Instagram DM later because I decided to go train there. That's the next thing, right? Contact the place that you're going after you researched it to make sure they know you're coming. And it's actually on you to ask about the fees. All right. Because imagine even though they're a business owner and they should be charging money, even if they're profit, you should be asking like, what is the mat fee, right? Just so you don't make it awkward for them to bring it up, right? You're the visitor, so you should be offering a donation or a mat fee. And even if they say it's free, I think it's etiquette to at least like give a donation. And if they say they don't, this next part is something that I do. If they say it's fine, just visit for free, we're not going to charge you anything, then I think it's still a good thing to bring a gift, like some snacks or cookies or something like that's as a gift. But that's an Asian thing for me, right? To bring a gift always. Speaking of researching places, remember I was supposed to go to Las Vegas. Well, I was planning on going to Las Vegas, and then I was researching clubs. I went on their social media, and one of their posts, I saw this dangerous looking Tani Otoshi being posted up on the page. And the fact that the instructor was okay with that being posted up was like a red flag to me for my own safety. So I didn't want to go there for that reason. So that's another thing I think you should consider, is especially if you're not a black belt, you're newer, but even as a black belt, you should still look up these places to see if there's a chance they're going to be one of those places that's like, I almost named a place, but I'm not going to name a place, but almost like these, let's just call them rumble houses where you would go and get hurt, because that's the last thing you want to do is get hurt while you're on your trip. Right. One example, not for training, but one of my friends that happened to go to Japan the same time as me, that I met up with in Japan, his brother who traveled with him to Japan, first day of their trip, they decided to go to climb up Mount Fuji, and he fell, broke both his ankles, had to call a helicopter to be evacuated from the top of Mount Fuji. And that was the first day of his trip.
Yeah.
That was the first day of his week-long trip in Japan. So just
I hope he enjoyed the hospital.
which is the next thing I want to say is, like, even though you research how safe these places are, I'm really trying hard to not name places. You still want to think about when you're going to go visit these places, right? If you're like, I really don't want to risk getting hurt on the first day of my trip, especially if you're going to a wedding or something like that, then try and go on these kind of like training sessions towards the end of your trip. It would suck less, basically. Because the worst case scenario is you have everything done. You went to the wedding, did your trip already. Then you get hurt. Then you might have to change your airplane ticket and go to the hospital, right? That's like the worst case scenario outside of dying. But so those are some things I always consider when I plan where to visit, is to safety, risks, and then contact an instructor. Make it clear about stuff like fees, whether it's okay to wear a white gi or blue gi or whatever gi you have. Like, for example, this trip, I really don't want to pack my judo gi. And that place that I'm going to is, they train both BJJ and judo, though I sadly would only be able to make the judo session, not the BJJ session. So I want to ask him, would you be okay with me bringing a BJJ gi for the judo class? I still haven't decided if I want to bring my judo gi, but my BJJ gi takes up like half the space of my judo gi. So I really want to ask that.
What about that new Mizuno that you bought?
I tried it takes up less space, but not as little as one of the BJJ gis I have, just because that's just how it is. So I'm still glad I bought that gi.
I want to stop you there for a second with the gis. Just to let people know, most judo clubs, not all, but most judo clubs, especially traditional, only allow two colors. They only allow white and blue. So if you have a BJJ gi or something, or a karate gi, it's like, I know karate police try to sell us like a grappling karate gi in any other color. You're not allowed to wear that. Like, we'll have visitors come to us sometimes with a black BJJ gi or a green or pink, and they tell them that's not allowed on our mat. Sometimes if there's a visitor, like we know they're visiting from out of town, we'll allow it, but most clubs won't. And just be safe. I'm just gonna say, just play safe. Better be safe than sorry. Just take a blue or white gi with you. You can't go wrong with white. All right, at a judo place, because you can wear white at BJJ or judo. Okay.
Yeah. So if you're traveling, you don't know where you're going to visit. Like you're just, oh, I'll just go fly there. Like, for example, when I went to Japan, well, Japan's is different because everywhere in Japan, you need a white gi, no blue.
Yeah.
For the most part. But let's say I was going to Africa or whatever. I'm like, oh, I'm going to go there and figure out what dojos are nearby when I get there. Then I would still bring a white gi just in case they don't allow blue gi. White is always going to be safe. And please don't wear a gi with a patch that says with profanity on it, or like I almost said something, but you get what I mean. Don't be stupid. Just bring a plain white gi, right?
Yeah.
So that's
Judo gis, we don't look like one of our members that just come every now and then. Don't come in there looking like a race car driver. Okay, that may be okay in Taekwondo, karate, or some forms of karate, and okay in Taekwondo. But in Judo, we look like race car drivers with our gis and stuff. So even if you're like, oh, I want to put a dragon on my gi, don't do it. Okay, if I want to put some damn it, I said it. I want to put some Naruto clouds on my gi, don't do it. Okay, because I've had people come in with like a white Judo gi with all these things and like, what are you doing? Are you sponsored by them? You look like a damn NASCAR driver. We don't do that in Judo. That's not a Judo thing.
Yeah. So that's all. One of the things, please don't wear your gis that are like past your elbows, right? Like the guy at the tournament that we linked last one of our past episodes where we talked about the tournament.
Did he come after us?
I don't know, but someone I posted the picture on my Instagram. Obviously I censored out the faces and stuff, but people were laughing really hard. But yeah, don't wear a gi that's like that, because it's going to be a pain in the ass to train with you, and as a visitor, that's just really rude. So don't do that. Also ask about any etiquettes or anything that you should do before you come or anything, because it's also good to ask, just because some places will be like, oh, on certain days we only work on sacrifice throws or something like that, or we only do this or do that, or and if you're like, oh, I don't want to just do sacrifice throws all day, then maybe you want to look for another club to train or something like that. Also whatever etiquette, right? Yeah. So back to the safety
etiquette,
thing.
He means like, so
go ahead.
Obviously with some etiquette stuff, just some basic etiquette things, you just brought it up. So like basic etiquette things, like I know at our dojo, we're not as strict on you bowing when you enter the dojo. Some may be, depends on how small or how big they are, But one thing that all dojos do is that you have to bow when you get on the mat. That is a thing that judo players do. Most dojos enforce that. When you step on the mat, you bow. When you get off the mat, you bow. That's just a basic thing. And same thing when you bow to your partners when you start things. It's like the judo handshake. That's what I always tell people it is. We bow when we start, and we bow when we end. And when you do a bow, especially when you go visit, do a good proper bow. Put your hand in front of you and just bow straight back, head down. Don't do that whole like little head nod little thing, or enter the dragon looking at them the entire time. Never take your eyes off your opponent's stuff. That's not proper judo. No one's going to cut your head off here. No one's going to kick you in the face. Hopefully, you're not going to bow and then suddenly they're going to get behind you and suplex you. Just bow properly, because that shows respect when you start and when you end. Because I've had visitors before that don't do that. We had to tell them like to do that. And I've had students go visit places and do their little head nod bow and then come back and be like, hey, since you won, I went to this dojo and they got mad at me because I bowed this way. I'm like, yes, I tell you not to do that all the time. Why did you do that?
I don't think it's that big of a deal in America for most places when you skip things like that, but you will give a better impression if you do that kind of stuff. So for example, bowing before you enter the dojo, like again, we tell everyone that we don't enforce it, but other places might, so you might as well get used to it. So I personally try to remember to do it when I'm at the dojo, just to form a habit. Obviously I don't always do it because I'm in and out sometimes, taking out the trash, cleaning, putting the benches out, whatever, right? So I don't always do it, but I try to remember to do it. That way, when I go visit places, I'm like, okay, I'm visiting someplace, I need to do that, right? Versus just forgetting about it. And we've gotten visitors, and honestly, even though I don't like make a big deal out of it, but we do get visitors, like you said, who don't bow or they don't wear their shoes off the mat or whatever. And it just, first of all, it leaves a bad impression. I'm not going to go be like, hey, you want to go grab a beer after practice or like that? Because straight off the bat, I'm already like, I don't like this guy that much, right? And then
yeah,
another thing would be most places, especially when I went to Japan, I think if you're a foreigner, most places would be too nice to say anything to you. They won't say anything, but then if you're lucky, they just won't say anything. If you're unlucky, they're going to get the mat enforcer to come say something in a different way, basically, right? So going back to safety, right? Safety, if you give off like a bad vibe, like you're here like a douche, or you're here to prove something, or you're here to be dangerous or something, then expect something rough to happen, right? I don't want to jump back to the safety thing too soon, but one of the BJJ clubs I visited kind of, I think, did that to me in a sense. Was not because I was disrespectful, but I think I didn't do research beforehand about the place and didn't ask people, hey, do you know about this place, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't know it was a thing until someone told me, like, in BJJ, it's very common for clubs to treat visitors as like, oh, they're here to visit. We can't like look bad, so we have to like go hard on them, right? So I got like cross-faced across my, I got cross-faced across my nose. I got fish hooked and stuff like that. So that can be all avoided if you do the research beforehand and just be very courteous in the first place. You can never be too like, just like when you go visit someone's house, you don't just act like it's your own place, right? You be extra careful about everything you do. So like you said, bow before you enter the mat always, or enter the dojo always, right? And bow before you enter and exit the mat. We don't enforce it, but again, you should not step onto the mat until you have permission to do so. Another thing that you should do is always go before class, show up early. No one wants to like you to show up late unless you communicate before that. They're saying, hey, I'm going to be late because of my travel plans, or my plane lands late or whatever. Always try to show up early. I will explain a funny story later on how that actually backfired on me, but show up early and introduce yourself to the head instructor. Say, hey, my name's Anthony. I'm from Hollywood. I'm visiting from out of town. Thank you so much for letting me like train with you guys. Just like that's the etiquette. You always start off with the head instructor, like the highest rank, and then if you can tell who like afterwards, just go through all the black belts basically, right? And that's the main etiquette for judo as far as I know when you go visit a club. And then don't, especially when they're teaching classes, don't like say, hey, but my sensei said this, like, like don't do that, right? Even though it's a funny thing because you're going there for a new experience and you look, don't be like, well, I do it this way. Oh, my sensei did it that way. Like you're going there for a new look, like take what you can get from there, like I hate when people do like, I would be like, I do hate when people do that. Like, well, we talk about this all the time. Well, in BJJ, I'll do this. This isn't BJJ. That's a different thing, right? Even within judo, people will do that. Like for those listening, they're like, who the hell does that? That sounds stupid, but you'd be surprised. We've gotten visitors that say like, well, why would you do this? My sensei says this, right? It's like, I've seen it happen so many times. You're here for a different look. Just accept it. All right. And the word, just a little thing you mentioned it for a second. Is the shoe thing. And you'd be surprised how many people forget that. Like if you're visiting somewhere, make sure to bring sandals or shoes you can slip on and off of, because no one wants your dirty ass feet walking on their concrete, linoleum, whatever they have out there onto the mat. Okay. We try to be clean in judo. We try to be clean in grappling, period. So you must bring a pair of shoes. And if you get on and off the mat, like say they have a water fountain or you get drinks off the mat and come back on, put on your shoes. Okay. That's just a little pet peeve of mine. And that's something that I always do when I go to a dojo. Make sure I have my slippers with me or sandals or shoes or something I can slip on and off, because I don't leave a bad impression. When you go visit a place, you want to be kind of like on your best behavior because you're visiting someone's house, like Anthony says. You may get away with some of the stuff at your own dojo, but when you go somewhere else, like because it's not just you, especially if you say, hello, I'm Juan from Hollywood Judo Dojo, yakety schmackety, bippity boppity boo. Like, oh, this is what Hollywood does. This is how Hollywood that's exactly what I was going to say next. Like,
this is how Hollywood treats their people. Like, no, just me being an idiot. No, this isn't Hollywood. This is me. All right.
So if you guys get a visitor that are like that, obviously don't just judge the whole dojo based off of that. But for us, I'm like, wow, we got 3 people from this club that are all like that. I'm just going to start thinking like, that's how that club is like that. Just one of the stories I have was one of the clubs I trained at. I'm not going to mention, well, I've only trained at a few clubs, so it's kind of obvious, but there's a McDojo in town, right? I'm going to straight up and say that place is a McDojo. And they would come to the club, and basically for the most part, people would be like, oh crap, this is what judo is really like. And then they leave afterwards because they can't last the whole, even the warm-ups. But, in one case, the guy got kicked out because he was literally like, well, my sensei says this would never work in real judo, but it will only work in competition. But in real life, it would never work because blah, blah, blah. He just got asked to leave. So, yeah, just be wary of stuff like that. Don't just be there to learn. Keep your mouth shut, even though I've gotten told some really stupid things from some senseis. Like, if I say it, it'll be really obvious which sensei said it, but some of the things just makes absolutely no sense. And I thought it was like the stupidest thing in the world. And you can still learn stuff when people say something stupid. Let's just put it that way, right? It's like, for one, you have to understand why it's stupid, right? You can't just say, well, this is different from what my sensei says, so it must be stupid. Well, it would be like, let's say if I said, Juan, you should never, ever grab someone by the belt because you can get a Shido. If by chance you grab below the belt, like, you can get a Shido.
Interesting.
Right? So if you just, no one ever said this to me, by the way. I'm just using it as a stupid example.
Yeah.
If someone said that to me, I'd be like, well, it does kind of make sense on paper, because if you grab below the belt, you're risking getting a Shido by grabbing below the belt. But there's so many throws where you grab off the belt, or it's such a powerful position. Why would I not grab the belt? So you have to like think about these things and force you to think why it's stupid in the first place, right? And yeah, that's one. There's other things you can learn from things like that, but sometimes when people explain a concept that's really stupid, there's still always one part there's some truth to it. So that's a learning experience. That's what I want to say. But back to the etiquette. Another thing was when I visited Seattle, one of the clubs I went to, I was paired up with a white belt, which I found really interesting because usually you don't pair up a visitor with a white belt, because I personally wouldn't do that. Even if they're a black belt, I wouldn't do that. Because then you're kind of putting it on the guy black belt to go teach this guy, basically, right?
Yeah, you put in a visitor like, oh shit, we got a sucker.
Yeah.
Yes,
I'm personally okay with that
for a while.
I'm personally okay with them pairing me up with a white belt, but you don't know why the guy's visiting, right? Unless they're saying, hey, I'm here for I'm training for the Olympics. Like, I want to go get a hard workout. I'm visiting Tenri for a hard workout because I'm prepping for Olympics. And they're like, okay, you don't pair with a white belt because I don't want you to get injured, blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff, right? But if you're just visiting, you don't know if the guy's like hurt. You don't know if he's prepping for a tournament, whether he's going to a wedding tomorrow or whatever. So why would you do that? But I was personally okay with it. The white belt was like not understanding the technique and was asking me. And then I'm just like, hey, like, I think you're doing this, but I don't want to give you too much feedback because it's kind of against the etiquette to teach other people's students when you're not part of the dojo. Like, kind of imagine someone shows up to your house and starts telling your kids like, hey, you should like rearrange your room this way. You should do your homework this way. You should put your shoes this way. You should clean up this way. By the way, you shouldn't watch TV after certain. It's okay to watch TV during this time. It's not okay to watch TV. Like, imagine someone coming and tell your kids stuff like that, right? So I'm just like, I think we're doing also Osutogari, and I said, well, I think you need to pull a little more, but I think you should ask this black belt. And there was a black belt right there just looking at me and just like nodding. So I think he was okay with what I was saying. So I just started giving a little bit more and more instruction. But for the most part, obviously don't go there and start teaching, especially if you're not a black belt. I think that's what pisses most people off is you see a brown belt or a green belt come visit and they start teaching like yellow and white belt stuff. And this is like not even a visitor thing. This is like within your own dojo, you probably shouldn't do that unless you're asked to do that. Like, hey, like Bob, white belt. Bob's a white belt. John, you green belt, go teach him this thing. Then, yeah, but you shouldn't start teaching other people stuff when you go visit. Just like, again, safest thing to do is just keep your mouth shut and train and listen. So, yeah. So that's just one thing I really wanted to point out. So avoid pitfalls like that.
Yeah. And I'm letting Anthony explain because he kind of visits more dojos than I do and stuff. Like I'm very polite when I go visit dojos, but it's always, I always tell the joke of a lot of the dojos I go visit because my family lives in some small towns. I end up teaching the class sometimes when I go visit. It's like, I'm not here to teach. I'm here to visit and practice and learn from you guys and your style and your guys' thing.
See, but I think it would be a great honor. Personally, I think it's a great honor and compliment to someone. If I visit someplace and someone's like, hey, can you teach class? Because I think it's one thing if I was like a super like Travis Stevens or something. It's like, hey, Travis Stevens, can you run class? And that's one thing. That's still an honor if someone thinks I'm that great. But it's also an honor if someone says, hey, I'd like, let's say they listen to the podcast and they're like, I really like your teaching ideas. I want you to like go over certain concepts or how to teach class or something like that. Then that for me is like, oh wow, someone out there is really into what I'm doing, and that's a great honor. I wouldn't see it's like, oh God, I'm here to train. Like God, I gotta teach class. I don't think I would think of it like that. So because personally, I'm going to visit clubs to absorb what other people do and how they teach both adults and kids, because I think they're interrelated. And mostly because it's like at what age do you draw the line between adults and kids, right? So definitely not 18, I can tell you that. So
it's usually teenagers, but hey, it is what it is. Also, one thing that I like to do when I go visit places is that when I look up on their website, their class schedules, if they have an open mat day, if they have an open mat or open rondori or something, those are kind of the days I like to visit, because I'm not worried about a class or anything. I just think it's more easier for me personally. But if they don't have an open class day, yeah, I'll go visit on one of the regular classes. And it's always good to call before, figure out what's going on, figure out if they're like a USJA school, USGF, USA Judo school, or if like, oh, if you bring in any of those, we'll be okay with that. One of the places that I like to go train in back when I go visit home in Santa Clara, they do a Saturday open mat, not an open mat run, but they do a Saturday rondori class. And that's when I usually go during that time, is that day. When I used to go visit my family in Modesto, there was just one dojo at that time, and they just had they only had classes, I think, on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I'd go either their Tuesday class or Thursday's class and stuff. And when I go to Vegas to visit my friend out there and stuff, they have a Saturday afternoon. It's a Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon class that goes by fast. Like I think it's like a 1 hour, hour and a half class, and just like flies by that class. So it's like, look at the schedule. Be polite, be nice and stuff, be cordial, do proper judo etiquette, don't cut corners, go with a clean gi, don't go no stinky gi.
Yeah.
If you're training multiple days, wash your gi. All right. Or bring multiple gis with you.
So here's the tip that I'd like to give, since that was what I want to bring up, is like you said, don't bring a stinky gi. And usually when I tell, this is a personal thing, but usually when we tell, beginners like, hey, just wash your gi. It's okay to show up with the gi a little wet, just not like dripping wet. As if it's a little damp, it's okay because it's gonna get wet anyway. As long as when it's wet, I know it's clean, right? But I think when you're visiting, I don't think the wet thing's okay. I think that's a little more like, again, you don't show up to someone's house like wet. So I think you should clean your gi on I know when you're visiting different places and you're only bringing one gi, because you can only fit one gi in your suitcase, is kind of rough. So try to wash it. And when you schedule your visits, if you're doing multiple dojo visits, consider that. Like if you're going to train back to back, is your gi going to dry in time? If it's not going to dry in time, consider bringing in a second gi, which is what I did for my Portland, Seattle trip, was I brought 2 gis. I was actually thinking about bringing 3 gis. Remember, like I posted on Instagram how my whole suitcase was filled with gis.
You can fit them all inside.
Yeah. So I ended up just bringing 2 because I was like, I think it will dry in time if I basically go back and forth between training the 2. If that doesn't work out, what I did in Japan was I bought a second gi. So that's one thing you can do. I buy a second gi at the local place, or email the place ahead of time and ask for a loaner. and just ask for a loaner and offer to pay a rental fee for it, because they're going to have to wash your freaking gi after you, right? So just that's one option. If you really can't or will not buy or pack a second gi, then email the place, contact them early beforehand and be like, hey, I'm training at this place before. I might not have a clean gi by the time I get to your place. Can I use a loaner? And I'm willing to pay for the laundry fee or whatever rental fee you have for it. And it's like $20, $10, whatever, $5. So that's a thing to consider. I think for the, I do want to talk about, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I just want to say, I just want to reinforce what you're saying. Like, yes, it is very polite, and you should, if you're going to rent a gi from a dojo or borrow gi from them, please, just as a polite, like, give them $5 or something. I know it doesn't cost $5 to wash a gi, depending on how much you wash it and stuff, but you have to think about it. They're washing your sweaty gi. Okay, they're being polite enough. They're polite enough to let you borrow a gi. Okay, if they even have your size. Because some dojos may have your size, they may not have your size. They may have loaners, they may not have loaners. And maybe a dojo might be nice and be like, oh, well, we want them to train. Here's a brand new gi and stuff. They're going to give you a brand new gi to wear, maybe. So just be polite enough to give them something to wash the gi, because you're not going to take it home and wash it. Okay. And even if you did, I've had many people do a loaner gi from us. Be like, oh, yeah, I'm here for a week. I'll be back on Thursday. I'll bring your gi back. Okay, great. Never see that gi again.
Yep.
It's got a free gi from us.
So far, I've got everyone to return their gis that I've loaned out.
Yeah, because you wash them. You take it out. You rip it off.
No, I don't. No, I don't wash them.
Wash
so far, everyone that I'd lent it out to has given it back. They washed it and bring it back. Yeah.
Okay.
But I do want to, before we move on, I want to talk about that story about showing up early that I talked about. Mm-hmm. When I went to Portland, I went to this place. I showed up extra early, and there was no one there. They were teaching a kids class, and I just sat and watched. And then he told me before then, he said, "Oh, the locker rooms are downstairs and through this door." It was a old building with a complicated layout. Let's just say that. So he was like, "Just take off your shoes, walk down the stairs, put your shoes back on, leave your shoes on this place, walk across the mat." They had a second level downstairs for, I guess, like private training or a separate class or something. And then go through that doors and go to the locker room. And obviously that was a lot of instruction. So I misheard or misremembered parts of it by the time class started. So I got changed early before anyone showed up. And then I left my stuff in the locker room and I came back up. And after training, I went back downstairs and there was like some girls training down there. And I was just like walking past them and going, and they're like, that's the women's locker room. I was like, oh crap.
Like,
and I was like, oh, I left my bag in there. Can you guys, and they looked at me like, you changed in there? Like, so
like no one was here.
Yes.
I swear.
So when I changed and when I was there, I was early enough that no one was there. So I went into the women's locker room without knowing it. And it was not late. There's no label in front of the
okay.
Yeah. So they were nice enough to bring it back to me, but like, yeah, that was just funny. I don't think it'll happen because most places they'll label the locker rooms outside, but yeah, so that was, it was an interesting layout. Let's just say that. But I mean, imagine if I showed up just like before everyone showed up, like just right before, and I was changing and a girl walked in, like that would have been quite a story to tell, I bet. So
you've been kicked out. If I'd be like, you pervert, get out of here. Trying to look at our women. Get out of here, dirty man.
Yeah, so I think...
So what's the next thing you want to talk about?
I want to talk about safety. Like, we kind of briefly talked about it by doing research, but I really want to talk about safety because personally, when I go visit clubs, I never, ever go even more than like 50%. Like, that's just me. Unless I'm going with a certain particular purpose or, let's say if I was visiting Johnny, like, we're friends and I might go a little harder with Johnny or Travis. But I never go 50%. I think the last time I did that, I got a concussion. I visited a place. I went pretty hard with this guy. And he gave me a concussion because we were going pretty hard. So, yeah, that's something you consider. Again, risk, research the place. And you don't want to be that guy that hurts someone while visiting a place. That's my main reason for not going over 50% with people I don't know. Because one, you don't know what they're going to do and it's going to escalate, especially you don't know if they have this feeling inside that we got to defend the honor of our dojo kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, I personally do not go over 50% when I go visit clubs. And that's also because I'm a big guy. So I had to be much more aware of the strength I'm using. Even though you guys were saying my judo is like really kind in general anyway, but yeah, so that's something you want to consider. Just make sure you don't out the gate start going really hard. When I went to the Kodokan to train, there were people, like especially the younger kids, the teenagers that visited the Kodokan. You can see they were going hard, and then you see the senseis in charge at the side saying like, "Hey, you go with him next," and they threw the crap out of that guy until the guy like was tapped out, and the round didn't end yet because I'm done. So you don't want that to happen, you know. You don't want to be known as that cocky guy that shows up that goes really hard with no control, and then they might ask you to leave. They might ask you to like not come back, or again, and just makes your club look bad. So,
well, I have a really not funny, but I have a bad example of that. Mm-hmm. We used to have a member of our dojo, was like a visiting member. He was a guy that would come to LA every now and then because of business. One of his times he came, and he used to go pretty hard because he was a strong guy and stuff. He went pretty hard one time during Randori, and he ended up hurting himself because he was going so hard. I'm not going to say how he injured himself because I don't want people to get scared or nothing, but he dislocated something. And luckily had a friend visiting with them. So his friend had taken him to the hospital, you know, and it's because he went too hard. And it's like when you're going to visit places, you don't have to go like Anthony said, 110%. You're visiting, you're there for the experience. You're not there to go prove yourself. You shouldn't be trying to go prove yourself. You should go for the experience of learning from new people, learning new styles and stuff, working out different people you've never worked out with before. It's not a tournament. It's not life or death. You're not getting paid to fight this dojo. Technically, You're paying them to fight this dojo. You should be. You're giving a donation. So you don't have to go 110%. I think it's really nice that Anthony talks about how he only goes 50%. I usually tend not to go that hard either. Like I know that when I go visit places, like the place I go in Santa Clara to go visit, I don't know what belt rank some people are or something, or how long they've been doing it. So I'll ask sometimes when I go against a citrus color, like, oh, how long have you been doing judo for? To try to gauge how hard they're going to go and stuff. And I never try to go that hard with anybody when I go to visits. Unless I really have to, unless I feel like I have to defend myself. Like, oh shit, this guy's going really hard. All right, we got to go into tournament mode here. Uranage coming.
Yeah, like very exactly like you said. You wouldn't want to do that in your home dojo anyway to hurt people, to go super hard unless you're prepping for a competition. But the advantage you have at your home dojo is you guys know each other a little better, so you know how hard everyone wants to go. But when you go visit in a club, you don't know how hard anyone's going to go. So it's safer to go lighter to protect both yourself and the other person instead of starting off hard. And if you feel like you can go harder because the guy wants to go hard and you like to go hard, then it's okay to like escalate a little bit, but don't start off just like off the gate, like destroying everyone with like uranageing people and stuff. Like, just don't do that. Like, I think at my BJJ club, one of the judo guys that I knew showed up and he was doing that to people, and then they had to set the enforcer on the mat on him. So yeah, just don't do that. Also, I want to give a good example. I'm a big guy and I train at a dojo one time at a trip where they have really tight mat space, but the thing is everyone training there was pretty small. So I don't think they understand how it is for a big guy to be falling around in a large mat space. Yeah.
You're 6 feet tall this way. You're going to be 6 feet tall this way when you land.
Yeah.
Right?
So I was being nice. I was trying not, I was trying to throw with very minimal strength and movement. Let's just say that. Cause if the more you move, the easier you are to throw someone. Right. So I was trying to do that and I wasn't really throwing anyone, and I would stop. I would get to Kazushi and basically stop before the attack. And then they were like, you can throw us, right? And I was like, I'd rather not. It's kind of tight in here. And no, it's fine. It's totally fine. So eventually I actually threw someone with Uchimata and I was about to roll over them, But then there was another group that fell there. I didn't want to roll on top of them. So I landed on my knee. Yeah. So I landed on my knee, on my good knee, not my bad knee. I landed on my knee and posted my hand out to stop that. But for the rest of the trip, my left knee was like bruised and hurting for the next couple of days because I was like, okay, I guess I will throw someone. And I gave into that part of my ego, I guess I want to say. And then in order to avoid me like 220 pounds at the time landing on this like 130 pound girl, then that happened. So, yeah, so that's just a story about how you have to consider stuff like that too. Even sometimes when people say things are okay, just if you think it's not okay, like don't do it. Right. So, yep.
All right. I think we went through almost everything to do for the most part. Is there anything else anything we forgot about talking?
I want to briefly go over the idea of a home dojo, because we're talking about visiting and cross training and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, like we did at your house the other day.
Yeah. Yeah, when you visit, it's very common now. I personally encourage my students when I talk to them to go visit other clubs, because I'll be like, you guys don't know how well you have it here. It was what I always tell them. And it's not like a brag, but I'm just, for one thing, our floors are really nice. Not every place has that. I think people take that for granted, and I think it's okay to not improve their ukemi skills because they're falling fine on our floors. But you go somewhere else, like I'm gonna call Scotty here. Scotty is currently visiting his family in I'm not gonna say which state because there's only one club there, so it's very obvious what he's talking about. And yeah, so he was like
crazy. In the entire state, one judo club.
So he visited, and then he was like, man, they're not very good here. And that's what he said. And then he was also like, the mats are really bad. And he sent me a picture, and I was like, dude, those mats aren't bad. Those are like what most judo clubs in America have. I'm like, you don't know bad. Bad is like puzzle mats, right? So I'm like, that's what I started with, and that's what a lot of places I visit, that's the mats that they have. And he was afraid to do randori on those mats. I'm like, come on, you can't just do randori at our dojo only with only like the nice floors. Like you're gonna have to accept the fact that most places are gonna have floors like that. And even in Japan, a lot of places, maybe their mats a little thicker, but it's still those kind of mats on top of a hardwood floor or something. So I encourage people to visit other clubs all the time. But we do have some people that train at multiple dojos, like Monday, Wednesday, they go here, Tuesday, Thursday, they go here, Saturday, they go this other place. And I'm personally, before COVID, I was one of those guys because I had a lot of time. And one of the things that they always ask me every single place I went to, they're like, so are you visiting or are you like changing clubs? That's one thing you have to start getting into your head if you're going to start doing that, is you have to have a home dojo. Yeah, that's just a thing. You have to have your home dojo, right? You don't want to go to a club and have them think you're just actually a new person. So you should say, I'm visiting, I'm from this club. So they don't assume you're a student there and teach you things that they don't want to teach people that are outsiders. And maybe they don't welcome visitors or something. So you want to actually tell them, I'm a visitor. I'm not switching clubs. I'm just a visitor. My home club is this club. Another thing is that way they know not to promote you, right? Because you should only get your promotions through one club, through your sensei. Which leads to another thing. We actually got this question, right, from a guy that quit our club recently. He was like, wait a minute. So this other dojo,
yeah.
Their belt rank is white, green, brown, white, green, brown, black, right? And you guys are white, yellow, orange, green, blue, brown, black. So technically I can go to this other club, get my green belt because there's only one rank above, and then come back and be a green belt and go to the advanced class. And then I'm just like sitting there like, yeah, technically you can do that, but why? It was what I was thinking, like, what? I'm like,
it was one of those things of like, I know what you're doing. I know you're trying to work the system here, but the way you're working the system is going to get you hurt.
Well, I was like, why would you even ask that, right? Why are you saying it out loud?
because he really wanted to go to the advanced class, but he like not sadly, but he wasn't that coordinated. He knew he was going to take him a long time to get to this stuff, and he probably would never make it to green belt anyways because he probably quit.
I think that you're just assuming, right? You're assuming he didn't.
I'm assuming
you don't know that.
I'm assuming a lot. He didn't say anything, but you just know, like you just tell, like he's trying to work the system. Oh no, don't do this. You're just going to hurt yourself. That's the whole thing. With stuff like that, you're trying to work the system, think that you're gonna make yourself better. You're not. You're just gonna hurt yourself, man.
I will say, I did tell him though. I'm like, but you gotta know when you come back, you're gonna get thrown like a green belt. You know that, right? And then you're also gonna be treated like a guy from that club, not here. Like, so if you do something wrong, we're just going to assume that this is how they taught it at that place. I almost said the dojo's name. That's how they do it at that place. And we're not going to correct you because we're just going to assume that's the way the sensei there taught you. And then if you do say, hey, I want to switch back to this dojo, then you're just going to be stuck at that belt for a long time. So don't expect to be a green belt at our system. You're going to be like, you're wearing a green belt, but you're actually at this other level, and you're going to be green for a long ass time before you go to brown or blue, whatever. Right. So also it kind of gives off the bad impression. If you go to another club, get a belt, then come back, like that gives off a really bad impression. So try not to do that. And in general, in martial arts, unless you're moving or something, it's kind of bad etiquette to hop around different teachers. So the cross training is important. That cross training, because no one instructor can be all knowing or good at every technique. And even if they are, their teaching style or the way that they do the technique might not match your style. So you want to get more points of views and experiences and stuff like that. But that's regarding home dojo. So make sure you talk to all the instructors and make sure you're it's very clear what your intentions are and everyone's aware that you're training in all these places. With that said, though, we do have a few people from our I'll just outright say the dojo's name. In this case, it doesn't matter. We have a few people from our clubs that cross train at Tenri, and Tenri only does white, brown, black, I think. So there are these white belts showing up to our beginners class, like murdering everyone. And eventually when they learn to...
I wouldn't say murder.
I wouldn't say murder because we don't do randori.
They're better than the average white belt. White belt.
Yeah, they're just really good, right? So they're just really not, they're not white belt, clearly. Not white belt level. And we just make sure that because Tenri doesn't teach, we just make sure that they learn the names of the techniques and stuff, and then we just give a belt to them and we're progressing them faster. And one of the questions was like, hey, so you guys gave me a yellow belt or green belt, blue belt, orange belt, whatever, but at Tenri, they don't let me wear this. I'm like, well, just wear a white belt at Tenri then. But even then, you should still decide which your home dojo is. It's just, we don't want people to show up to our beginners class or intermediate class and it's like, why is that white belt like so good? Or, just avoid confusion, basically. So that's the one exception, I think, to the rule. But otherwise, you should always wear the rank the belt that you were given by your home dojo and your home instructor. And is there anything you want to add to that before I vent about this one other thing that you probably laugh at?
Well, it's tough with that thing right there where you get people that want to visit, because we get some people like, let's just talk about Tenri and stuff. Tenri is a very good competition school because they do a lot of randori. It's pretty much, for the most part, when I went to go there, it was just open mat randori. They did a little bit of warm-ups and then it's just randori. So we have a lot of people that will come visit our dojo because it's closer to them. You heard about us, they saw it on Instagram or Instagram or on Facebook or something, and they want to come learn from us. And I'd be like, oh, I like learning judo here, but I like training doing randori there.
They want to do more randori as a beginner.
Yeah. And I don't get that sometimes because like you're just being cannon fodder. They're just beating you up, and it's that old osmosis. Just get beat up enough, you're going to learn it from that, which I'm not a big fan of anyways. Not a big fan of that teaching style, but
yeah, I'll keep my experiences to myself about that. So
yeah. So we get some people, like there's one member of the dojo, like we said, he's been a white belt with us for a long time, like probably over a year and a half. And I know Sensei Philippe was like, He's been here forever, pretty much it seems now. Why isn't he a yellow belt yet? And we told him, oh, because he's not our member technically. He's our member, but his home dojo technically is a Tenri. And Felipe was like, you want to know what? Just give him a yellow belt so he can come to the advanced class because he should be there by now. And I was like, okay, so here's your yellow belt for Hollywood, for Hollywood Judo. And I knew about that thing about him, not him or anyone not being able to wear their yellow belt at Tenri. I get it. I totally get it because they're more traditional than even us about certain things.
I think for that one person, that obviously the people from Tenri cross-train in our place is more than one person, but that one particular person I'm thinking of, I think he hasn't, to be honest, I think he hasn't decided which one he wants to be his home dojo yet. And
he's been
I understand
doing judo for a year and some odd now.
I understand because there is a prestige like to associate it with Tenri, the name Tenri, because people are like, oh, he's a black belt from Tenri. Like there is a prestige to that. So I get the hesitancy, but I mean, for now is not a problem. But as later on, like when he gets even his brown belt, I'm not going to say black belt yet. I think that matters a lot more. So, well, but immediately for now,
this is years. Well, I'm going to tell you, then we had the opposite thing kind of happen years ago. I'm not going to say who it is, but it's one of our black belts now. We promote the black belt. One of our members, because of his schedule, was a white belt with us for a while, was a really good white belt. But for something happened where he can only train at Tenri for a while. So the days just worked better at Tenri. Went to Tenri, and after 3 months, because he was really naturally good, after like 3 months training at Tenri, they gave him a brown belt. And he came back to us and was like, hey, yeah, Tenri gave me a brown belt. Is that okay? And Philippe, being the guy he is, being like, well, if they give you a brown belt, we're going to honor it. And that's how he got his brown belt, So it's kind of weird that we honor their stuff, but I'm not saying they don't honor our stuff, but it's a weird dynamic,
Again, I think if they're like, I don't think Takashi from Tenri was like, you can't wear a yellow belt. I think if I was an orange belt and I went to Tenri, I can wear my orange belt. I just think it's like he hasn't decided which one's his home dojo yet. Because if he wears his yellow belt, orange belt, whatever at Tenri, then it's like telling Takashi like, hey, I'm from this other dojo. I'm not from Tenri. Does that make sense? So
yeah, no, I get it.
That's the unique circumstance that we're talking about at that point, right? But I lost my train of thought. But I'm going to have to cut out this long, awkward pause from the podcast.
So we're talking about these belt promotion stuff. Yeah, you had a funny story you said about belt promotion. So what was the thing you wanted to bring up?
So I don't know how I'm going to edit this. Oh, sorry. I don't know how I'm going to edit this in, but I forgot and we ended the episode and I just remembered what I was going to say. So and I thought it was pretty important to bring in. I'm not going to name the person, but we know of someone that basically went to Japan and got their black belt and then came back, right? I don't know whether his sensei knew that he was doing that or not, but I personally think that's not okay if your sensei doesn't know that. And even then, I think if your sensei was okay with it, I still don't think it was okay personally, right? Like you were just telling me off the camera about how you're not cheating anyone, you're just cheating yourself, right?
Yeah.
I think it's one thing if you move to Japan and you train there under a different sensei or a different club and you get your black belt in Japan, your shodan in Japan and stuff like that. But then just to fly somewhere else to get your black belt and then fly back to your home dojo, I don't know. If I get a black belt that way for fun, for experience, I would never ever wear it.
Oh, you're frozen. You froze on me for a second.
Really? Sorry.
Yeah.
If I did that and for curiosity's sake, I wanted to like fight in Japan in the tournament to get my shodan just for experience, and I get it, I would never ever go, like I wouldn't come back to Hollywood and start wearing my black belt that way, because I don't think that represents the judo that I came up with right? I just flew somewhere, fought in a tournament, got a black belt and came back. That doesn't represent my judo or my sensei's judo or my club's judo. So that's just a pet peeve I have, is like I actually have no respect for someone that does that way, and doubly no respect for someone that didn't tell the instructor and just did that on their own, So that's just my opinion. I don't know. I know you know who I'm talking about. So what is your thought on it?
Yeah. It to me, it's a rough thing because it is like you had the opportunity to to go to Japan, the home of judo, where it's creating stuff, and you have the opportunity to get your black belt while you're there. Like we're thinking that it's like they went there somehow and just to get their black belt came back. Maybe they're invited over. Maybe someone knew their stuff.
Well, I'm sure
We don't
they
know.
wanted to cross train somewhere too, but
Yeah, like we don't know what the how the circumstances created, what the circumstances are created to make this. But yeah, it is kind of messed up that you went to Japan. But it's like you got to think about it also, like this is my opportunity to get my black belt in Japan. And most people like us, like head black, like real judo players like us, know that, you know, in Japan, your shodan is your beginner rank. It's not super hard to get a black belt in Japan if you train regularly. You know, it's like for us, it's 5-6 years average to get a black belt. In Japan, it's 2-3, you know?
Yep.
And my thing is also, we've had this thing happen at our dojo because like we're located near Koreatown, you know, we're right next to it. So for a while, we'd get a lot of people a lot of Koreans, when they came to America, they would look up a dojo.
Japanese too.
Dojo.
We've had Japanese Kodokan shodans come by. Yeah.
Yeah. And they would come to our dojo. And if you don't know, like in Korea, if you do your military service, your 2 years of military service, most likely, well, 90% of the time, you're either going to get your black belt in Taekwondo or your black belt in Judo. So a lot of these people come with black belts in judo and they'll go against us and be like, oh man, this, like, some will be good. I'm not going to say they're all bad, but some would be really, really good. And some would be like barely a brown belt or green belt technically. And they're like, oh man, like one guy, really nice guy, really cool guy. I think he lives out by you now, actually, stopped wearing his black belt. And I think he put on a brown belt or white belt even, and be like,
he was the same guy I talked about that visited my BJJ club and got the enforcer called on him.
Is that the same guy?
Yeah,
oh,
same guy. Yeah.
feel bad for him then. But for us, he knew like, oh man, my black belt here is not like these guys' black belts. It's different. So, you know, it's a weird thing. You know, it's, you have back to the person we first talked about. It's a really cool opportunity, but I understand also how it's super disrespectful to your sensei.
Yeah, I think we can all agree that there's discrepancy between even within the same country. I'm not talking about like Japan versus American. That's, everyone knows that. But even within the same country, we can all agree that there's discrepancy between black belts. It was like, again, my problem was mostly with the respect thing. Like you just, it's just A, you either disrespected your sensei by not telling them and doing that, or B, you're kind of wearing a black belt that doesn't represent your judo because you learned judo from this guy, but then you went somewhere else to get your black belt. So now that black belt represents something that's not you. I think there are a couple. There's one exception, like for a long time. I think people on Reddit would know about this. In Australia, it was really, really hard. There's a lot of red tape and hurdles and politics behind getting a shodan. So it's not uncommon, I think, to see a guy who has been brown belt for like 10, 15 years or something like that. If there's a lot of red tape, and because basically that's other circumstances making it really hard for you to get the black belt that's outside of your sensei's control, then I can see, okay, go to Japan and get your black belt so that the Australian, New Zealand, whatever country will recognize your shodan. Then I can see that being like a case. But again, at the same time, your sensei should have given you permission to do that, unless he died or something. Then I think there's.
Well, we get a lot of that sometimes. With judo, where a person goes to a dojo and their sensei sandbags them or doesn't like promote to black or certain things, or it's hard to get a black belt. Like if you do through USJF or USJA and stuff, there's applications we have to fill out. Like there is red tape, and sometimes you can't fill out a certain thing because you may have, like, this would be horrible to say, but maybe you did have a criminal record when you were younger, and that's one of the things that if it comes up, you might not be able to get your black belt, which isn't fair.
I think for the case I'm talking about for Australia, if I remember correctly, this was a while ago when I read it, and I think they changed it recently. But for a while, it was basically no matter who you are, you have to get enough competition points. They don't care if you got a leg amputated or something. You have to have enough competition points, and it has to be in the senior category. You can't, like, let's say you're 40 or 50, you have to fight against 20-year-olds, 18-year-olds, and get enough competition points, wins, to get the black belt. And I think that's just really difficult for many people. So I think they changed it recently, but that was the circumstance I was talking about.
But what I'm talking about is, though, like in the US, a lot of people get their brown belts and they can't get their black belt. Guess what they do? They leave judo, go to BJJ, and now they're a decent judo player with a brown belt, and then they can go get their black belt in BJJ. So I've seen that happen a lot too. Where like, hey, what happened? I thought you're doing judo. Oh, I quit judo. Just too hard to get my black belt. So I just turned over to BJJ, and now they're like a one stripe and
I still remember on Reddit someone posted like, "This is bullshit. I need to get a background check to get a black belt," and they're like, "Yeah, because you can teach in America when you get a black belt, and they don't want like people with a background to teach kids basically," and they're like, "Screw this, I'm going to BJJ." It's like, well,
yeah, it happens.
Totally helps with the stereotype against the BJJ community, you know? Like,
oh man, more heat. All right.
Yeah. So
you want to go back to our regular scheduled program?
No, there's one other thing that I want to mention was we did the showdowns we had that visited from Japan. Many of them asked me like when I was brown belt, like, why aren't you a black belt yet? I'm like, and I had to explain, you know, the differences in the standards for black belt in Asia and America, because they didn't know that. They just judo in Japan was all they knew. So they didn't know, just like how we didn't, a lot of people didn't know in America that it's easier to get showdown in Asia. But yeah, that's the end of the discussion that we want to talk. That's what I remembered. So I'm gonna edit this in and it's gonna sound totally natural. So
no, it's not.
Bottom line is the bottom line is communication, right? Just make sure everyone's on the same page. These are just common etiquettes we're talking about, but wherever you go, maybe the culture is slightly different. So just make sure there's no miscommunication. Just make sure there's none of that happening. Because a lot of times people come to us and say like, I want to train here. Like, is it okay? Like they're making like it's some like, oh, I'm about to go buy some porno magazines. Like, is it okay? It's like, and they're getting really surprised that we're like, yeah, do whatever you want. We just want people to train judo. Like, don't care. Like, just go do whatever. But the promotion thing, especially at the beginner, like white belt, yellow belt, orange belt level, I don't think it really matters. It's when it comes to brown and black belts that I think it really matters, that the promotion stuff that we're talking about. Everything else is just like whatever, do what you want. It doesn't really matter. And I find it really funny because I did talk to some people that talk about how some dojos are upset about others because they stole their students or something like that. And I think, well, you can't see it like that. It could be they stole the students changed because they just like the other club better, and it could either be the schedule, the location, or you just plain suck at teaching, right? So, or just not even you suck at. I knew
you were gonna go there.
Or it's not. It might not even. I just said that because it's funny, but it's not even because most of the time it's not because you suck at teaching. It's because people have different ways of teaching, and some people don't like the way I teach. Some people don't like the way you teach, right? So, at least in our club, you have the freedom to. Well, other than Philippe. You have the freedom to learn from different instructors versus many other clubs. It's just you have one guy and you just have to listen to that one guy. And what he says doesn't match what you want to do or learn the way you learn, then your only option is to switch clubs, right? So sometimes it's that. So it's not even that you suck at teaching, it's just not compatible. And other times it's just the culture is different. Like maybe someone's like, man, that club is so strict. I don't like how it's so strict. We got to bow before this, bow before that. Then they switch clubs to the club that doesn't enforce all that stuff. And I've literally had a parent tell me, yeah, I prefer to send my kid to this other place because they yell at my kids more. Like there's that too, right? So it's just, this is why we talk about how having money in different clubs is well, there are parents like that. I'm not going to go into a debate about parenting, but there's also that.
I'm not debating about parenting, but I'm gonna call some people out for that one. We got parents that will complain about us not yelling at the kids in Korean, not teaching them in Spanish, and that we've gotten too nice and we've gotten too mean before also. And I think the too mean was me because I made some kid cry.
Yeah, but for example, remember there's that Korean guy that visited one time that trains at a different club. And he was like, I prefer my club better because I just want that Korean experience where I get yelled at. I was just like,
yeah. And I was joking like, hey, I got Tim. I got Tim yell at you in Korean if you want.
that doesn't mean we suck at teaching, right? It's just they prefer a different atmosphere. So, so that's going off another topic. But for the most part, that's the etiquette. Basically communication, so there's no misunderstanding, respect all the etiquettes like bowing, and then pay money, keep clean, don't injure yourself or other people, and don't be a dick. So that's for the most part.
And actually, that brought back like a little small thing. Because judo is a national sport, like here in Koreatown, we have a Korean dojo in the neighborhood, and they teach in Korean. I know that when you go to Las Vegas, there's a Cuban club there, and I know majority of the time they teach in Spanish. So it might be a little side thing, but make sure that they teach in a language you can understand. Because I know, like me, I teach a lot of stuff in Japanese, and I get a lot of people being like,
I went to Japan, I didn't understand a word. So
yeah, what do they say? What does that mean? Like the whole sankaku thing when I was explaining triangles, and I kept on saying, triangle, sankaku, and people were still asking, what is sankaku? I just said triangle like 10 times in a row. So make sure you understand them too. That's a little side when you go visit somewhere.
Yeah.
So was that it, Anthony, about us visiting and all our suggestions?
Yeah, if I remember what the hell I was going to say, maybe I'll add it on. I'll do like a solo monologue at the camera and add it on during the editing. So, yeah.
All right. So please remember to like, share, subscribe. You can follow us on Instagram at the Tatami Talk. You can follow us on YouTube at the Tatami Talk. You can follow me at _Juan. You can follow Anthony Throws on Instagram. We're going to try to make some videos soon. We're going to try to do a little extra stuff. We're actually going to do a little setup of a game show that Anthony's going to make us do.
I forgot about that.
I do not know how this is going to go, but we're going to try it out, and I hope I don't look too stupid.
Yeah. Right? I love trivia. Well, actually, I'll take that back. I love listening to trivia podcasts. I don't love going to trivia, but I wanted. So I got the idea for our New Year's episode to New Year's end of the year. I haven't decided yet. For the basically end of the year or New Year's episode, we're gonna do a trivia. We're gonna have a special guest. I already set things up with him. I'm sure it'll be interesting.
SSSS, right? Special guest SSSS. Lots of guest SSSS.
Well, I was only thinking about it one guy. I guess you can call the other two guys I'm inviting special too, but in a different way. But
now you make it sound stupid now.
No, so I don't know how it's going to go. I haven't come up with the questions or a format yet, but again, this is why I've been so busy. I'm also coming because I'm working on the teaching curriculum for the new beginners class, and now it's the kids class too. That wasn't in my original plan. Then I got to come up with the questions and format for the game show, trivia show we're talking about. It might end up being terrible, so I'm sorry and beforehand if it's a boring episode, but maybe it'll be great, and then maybe we'll make it a annual year thing, even though I think there's only so many things you can ask about judo, but that will kind of push me to come up with more questions and learn more and stuff. And maybe we'll have different guests next time that know less about judo so I can ask more about stuff. But yeah, so look forward to that.
And with that is our quiz master, Anthony, right there. And if you want to suggest any questions for us, maybe to go on the quiz, you can send that to us at tatamitalk@gmail.com.
No, don't.
So you might want to.
I guess only email us. Don't post it in the comments, otherwise they'll read it. So. Yeah.
They'll read it. Yeah, email it. Send it to the email so Anthony can read it and see it. Okay. All right.
Yep.
So is that it?
Yep.
Nothing else. All right. And with that, don't forget to
slap the mat.